Today on the 01581, news on the community engagement process for the new community center and an update from Senator Michael Moore. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. I'm the host, Shelby Marshall. Happy to be here with you today, and I'm joined by our Town Manager, Kristi Williams. Kristi's a regular guest on the show. She provides us just-in-time updates on things going on with the town across all aspects of government. And today she's here to talk to us about and give us information on something we've all been excited about and waiting for, and that is an update on the community engagement process for the to-be renovated, I guess is the best way to say it, intergenerational community center. So Kristi, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for wearing the team colors.
Yes,
you know, we try to coordinate sometimes. Today it just sort of happened by, what is that, osmosis or something. Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. Yeah. So we've been really excited and have, like you said, have been talking about it, I think, for about a year about this anticipated public engagement session for the town to really understand what the community wants to see at the building. And I think we've given very little guidance at this point until we hear from the community. And we know the recreation department's going there. Mm-hmm. We know that the senior center is going there. Another thing that we've said is we know we need a commercial kitchen to support senior center activities and other community activities. Yep. So, but that's sort of it. So we're waiting.
And it's a massive space, as we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I feel like this is like, if you were Walt Disney, maybe we don't quite have his budget, right? But like, what would you imagine, right? Could be here, right?
Yeah.
And not just for now, right? Not just for the immediate, but like 5, 10, 30 years from now, right?
Absolutely.
Like how might we use this space?
Right. Yeah. So we just brought on the architect. So we have the owner's project manager, which is CHA. I think.
And what do they do, just for folks that?
So they really are. They're our representative to the project. Mm-hmm. So they work directly with us, but they have expertise around all sorts of building projects, working with architects. They help us, push architects and eventually contractors and make sure that we follow timelines. And they also do sort of a second check on any prices that we get. So any costs related to the project, they'll do their own analysis. So really our representative.
And they work closely with the building committee. The OPM.
They will. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
And then we just brought on the architect, which is BH plus A, and their job right now is really this community engagement. And so their job is to listen and then give us some designs that we can look at.
So the community engagement process, what does that look like? How can people engage?
Sure.
Et cetera.
So the first step of this process was just to hear everything. So yesterday.
So today is just for I was going to say today. I know it's like we tape these things and we don't do it live, thank God, because you should see the bloopers. No, I'm just kidding. But today is the 23rd of July, so July 22nd, Monday.
Yep. We released a community survey link. So that link is being advertised all over our Facebook page, our website, and then we've also asked the schools to send it out. Westbrook Next is helping us get the word out. If you're not comfortable doing it online, it's also available in paper form at the senior center and also the library.
Excellent.
And that's going to be open for 3 weeks. So really encourage folks to do that. We've actually, within hours of releasing it yesterday, we had over 100 responses. So really excited to see that tool being used immediately. Then we're also, for the public, on July 30th, we have 2 public input sessions. So one is at 2 o'clock at the senior center. It's going to be a little bit more focused on senior needs, but everyone is welcome and invited. And we'd certainly, if that's your opportunity to give input, you can certainly give input into the entire building. And then that evening at 6 o'clock, we'll have another input session at the town hall and Memorial Hall. And then for folks who might be traveling or away for the whole summer, we have a full remote public input session on August 5th at 7 o'clock, and we will be releasing that link shortly.
Great. And I would imagine our friends at Westboro TV have already been contacted to record some of these sessions,
Yes.
and so that folks can kind of hear that maybe. So the survey will end when? I wasn't thinking.
So it's 3 weeks. So I'm thinking of what the date is in 3 weeks.
So it's after, correct me if it would end after the August 5th session.
Yes.
Yeah. So folks would have a chance to attend a session and submit a survey,
Yes.
what have you. Okay, great, excellent.
And so that's sort of the initial phase for the public. We're also going to be holding some stakeholder meetings. So actually on July 24th in the afternoon, there's 2 open meetings. One is an open meeting of the Council on Aging, and one is an open meeting of the Recreation Commission. And they're going to be meeting with the architects to give their feedback into the space. There's also going to be some other meetings with staff, so recreation staff, Council on Aging staff, department heads will be meeting just to give input into the space. And then we also have another stakeholder meeting where we've invited committee chairs to come and give input. So that's all sort of the first part.
Okay.
From that will come some alternatives for the space. And then once those alternatives are presented, there'll be another opportunity for the public to react to those.
React to it.
Yep.
Great,
Yep.
excellent, good.
So it's an iterative process, and we're still targeting October.
Okay, a lot of work to be done between
Yes.
now and then.
Yeah.
So so folks, this is the time, right? So you have multiple ways to engage with the community engagement process. You can attend in person to one of the sessions, and our friends at Westboro TV will put that information up. Again, you can also go to the town's website and the town's Facebook page for more information. Attend those sessions. You can attend the open meeting sessions that Kristi also mentioned with the department heads. Those will be publicly, right? Is that correct?
Just the 2, Council on Aging and Recreation.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
So those 2 meetings are open as well for you to attend. And of course the survey. So would love to see, we have about 22,000 people in the town, is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
So imagine if we could get like 25, 30% of respondents like responding to this survey. Come on, Westboro, we can do this. This is our chance. This is a major investment by taxpayers. Not without controversy, as all investments are, and all uses of tax money are. This is your opportunity to provide input on the use of this in the build out, the fit up of this building, which will become a treasure that can be used by all. So get involved and get your feedback in. So
I just want to add.
Yep,
so
please.
Westboro TV actually also did a video tour of the building, which
okay.
will also be available. So if folks haven't been in the building, or you were only in there when it was the Halloween store, you can really get a good view of the building through that, and that might help you as you're sort of thinking through how you want to respond to the survey or other things.
Great.
Yeah.
Kristi, thanks so much. We'll look forward to other updates.
Great,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, I'll be back with next guest, Senator Michael Moore, in just a moment. Hi, and welcome back to this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. I'm joined by Senator Michael Moore. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Hope you're having a good summer.
Having a great summer. Can't believe it's July already, but
Almost August.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know. Well, and you haven't been laying on the beach. You've been busy on a budget process.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to talk about today.
We've had budgets, we've had gun bills, we've had economic development bills.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity going on.
Lots going on. Just so our viewers know, I usually get about 10 pages. Like I had like a 24-page packet. I had to reduce it to about the font of 10 from Senator Moore's staff of all the work that's been going on. And we did skip a month, but there's just been a lot going on.
Yeah.
So let's do a rundown in the time that we have together. So the budget, FY25.
Yep. So just quickly, we've done a budget, we've done an economic development bill, we've done a housing bond bill, a gun bill. That's the joint committee, conference committee came out on. I believe an IT bond bill is coming out this week. We did a healthcare bill.
Yep.
We've done a climate bill.
Did you say housing?
Housing.
Housing, yep.
Housing. And we've got 5 other bills coming out today, but these are the larger bills.
Kind of the headlines. Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yep.
so the
Okay.
budget was just done.
Yep.
So,
Budget's done. $58 billion budget, fiscal year 2025. And that's an increase, a $2 billion increase over 2024. Help me to understand, if you can, given that revenues are down, but we're increasing the budget and the state has to produce a balanced budget, how does that work? Without creating a structural deficit.
So what happened in January, where the revenues were down, we were $800 million below estimates. The governor did 9C cuts. That's emergency cuts that she can do without seeking legislative approval.
Okay.
So she brought us in budget then, in line with the budget.
Yep.
Spending, at that point, the administration then has to curtail spending.
Okay.
Because they also revised the estimates for the rest of the year.
Okay. Yep.
So the estimates are all revised, and spending then has to match that so they don't exceed it. So February came in.
Yep.
February was down another, I think it was like, I'm just going to, $2.5 to $300 million. But because we know that April is a big month.
Yep.
We don't have to get it in line exactly at that
Okay,
month.
sure.
So basically, February comes in, it's down another 200 or 300 million. March, I can't remember. It was pretty close. I think it was down a little bit, but nothing of significance. April came in, huge numbers.
Okay.
Brought us back from the red.
Okay.
And we had a surplus going.
Okay, gotcha.
From the revised estimates.
Okay. Okay.
So then May comes in. May came in down again.
Okay.
But it didn't bring us below the
Sure.
benchmarks.
Sure.
The estimate. So by the end of July,
Yep.
so they choose the end of June. That's why I think that's why part of the reason they were so late with this, they were waiting for the revenue
Sure.
numbers to come
Yep.
in.
Yep.
And we came in okay.
To ultimately
So,
produce this.
to
Okay,
produce
thank you
this.
for that explanation. And the governor has 10 days to approve this, is that correct?
Yes. Well,
Yep.
the 10 days to sign it, but also 10 days to do line item vetoes. So
Okay.
this is why it's important for us
Okay.
that we had to get this done before July 21st.
Okay.
Because if we want to come back in now and do budget overrides,
Yep.
if we went it past the 21st,
Yep.
we would be out of formal session.
Okay.
And to do a budget override, you need 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate, and they've got to be roll call votes.
Got it. Okay.
So if we didn't get this done, so now basically she's going to have, I think, roughly 3. So when she signs it and gets it back to us, the legislature will have 3 or 4 days to actually review the line item veto she makes and determine which ones we want to override.
Wow.
Now, customarily, whether it's a Democrat or Republican in the administration,
Yep.
the legislature most of the time overrides 95% of the gubernatorial vetoes.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And
Okay.
that's simply because you look, we did a budget.
You've done a budget.
done a
Yep.
budget.
You
It ha-
support your budget.
Right, we
Yep.
support
Yep.
it. And
Got it. Okay.
so-
Okay. Well, we'll see how that plays out. Okay. So just as a couple things that on the budget, it looks like about a third of it is allocated to Mass Health. I just think it's important that folks understand that, and that's a broad category of spending.
Yes, yep.
That is not just kind of healthcare, it's mental health, it's nursing facility care, which I was happy to see an additional allocation of money for base rate payments to maintain competitive wages in nursing facilities. So that was encouraging to see for our elders and their families. Continuing to have strong reimbursement in education, or not reimbursement, excuse me, budgeting.
Yep.
And, and let's see here, RTAs. I was, here out in the boroughs, Regional Transit Authority. Great to see some increased funding. I think a $250 almost 15 million toward that. So that last mile transportation, as you know, is so important.
And we're going to be able to maintain the no cost, no fares.
Yep.
So that for the more urban areas, that's going to be a big help there.
That's great. That's great. If we can talk a little bit about the economic development bill.
Sure.
So we've got almost $3 billion, not quite, $2.86 billion in bonds that focus on life science, climate tech, small businesses, and stimulating new industries and workforce development, talent retention. So why are you passionate about this bill?
Well, because, we need to make sure that we have an economy that's, and if you look at the sectors we're investing in, that are going to provide the students graduating from our colleges, universities, an infrastructure, the place where they can go, get a good job.
Yep.
And again, it's going to be a good quality, the cost of living is expensive here in Massachusetts.
Yep.
So this is an economy that we're building upon.
Yep.
You can't rest on your laurels and just, this is where we are.
Great place to work, right.
Every state is trying to invest. This is a competition.
Yeah.
So we need to be providing some advantages or some opportunities here, whether it's life sciences, whether it's the biotech, medical. If you look at the biggest industries in Massachusetts, these are the ones that we need to continue to focus on and make sure we're providing the incentives. If you look at because we have such a high cost of living here, any sort of economic development incentives we can grants, tax credits, anything we can do to draw these companies here is helpful. Now, even if you look at some of the states that we're competing against, the incentives that they're providing, in some cases, are much higher. But we're able to combine with the incentives and an educated workforce. So that's one of the advantages we have with drawing these businesses here, because we do have students that have the education and the skills. But if we don't provide them with the jobs here, they are going to leave.
Right.
So that's one good thing about this, is that we can try to make Massachusetts more attractive.
Sure. I think it was right. So as you mentioned, you've got investments across life sciences, climate tech, regional equity, AI. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about that in our past times together. Education and small business. One of the other pieces that some of the amendments you actually proposed, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that. One is temporary deepfake election media protection.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, so we all know AI and what it's capable of doing. We actually saw.
We think we know it, right?
We think we know it. Yeah. So it's a good point. We saw a small glimpse of what it could do. We saw in New Hampshire, when they had the primary, you had a phone call that went out, claimed that sounded just like Joe Biden's voice, and it went out to all these different voters, telling them not to go out and vote. Right. So what we were worried about is someone using AI, where they could basically take your face,
God help them,
put it on someone else's, it's some other ad or some other video or whatever. And they could make a campaign. Saying that I'm saying something that I'm not really saying. That you're not really saying. And that could influence the voters. Right. Or they could have some other long-term strategy that they're using AI for. The generative AI that can go out and try to influence the election. So we actually did this bill with the intention of having it. We actually with the intention of having it sunset after the election. So that this way it's. Which I think is interesting. Well, because we were worried about the freedom of speech. That argument. So this is a very short, narrow bill just to try to address the election, because there was so. I mean, just think, we're still talking about election fraud. Oh my God, years later, right? Years later. So let's not provide. Let's try to stop any opportunity for that argument to continue forward. So it makes a criminal offense. Can make it a criminal offense, and. Again, I think it's 90 days after. Expires February 1. Okay, 2025, right? So. And then we have responsible robotics. We had talked a little bit about this, as I recall, on a prior interview.
I was happy to see this one. Basically says robotics awesome, great development, but not to create weapons unless you're, I'll call it a regulated entity like the U.S. Department of Defense and related companies that have explicit waivers.
So I jokingly on the when I discussed this on the Senate floor, I jokingly referred to this as like the Terminator bill.
Yeah.
Think of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Terminator, and you got all these flying objects or robots, because this also affects drones. So there's robots and drones.
Okay.
It prohibits them from any sort of weaponry. Even there were some that were being made that had the being able to shoot fire. So those have been banned. Now the only exemption, as you stated, are for the Department of Defense and for law enforcement. Sure. And the law enforcement, it's more for the explosive type robots.
Yeah,
that
to
go
detonate.
To go in and detonate those.
Sure.
And I think those are the only two exemptions.
Yep.
Department of Defense and and we also the warrant requirement.
Yep.
We also put some restrictions on law enforcement, so that if they are going to go on private property, that's now exigent circumstances. So unless if it's an emergency, they have to justify it. They have to do what they need to do. But if it's a non-emergency and they want to utilize this equipment, there is a warrant requirement in here. So we are preserving people's Fourth Amendment rights.
Okay. Great. Okay. While we're on this, but a separate item, talk about the gun law.
Oh yes,
please.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
Now this is the one that there was a lot of controversy about. The House did a 140-page bill, and there was immediately a lot of pushback, and not just from gun owners, legal gun owners, but also from the law enforcement community. So what we tried to do is we reached out to law enforcement. We tried to address their issues. We also looked at some of the expansion that the House was trying to do. I think our bill went from 140 pages down to 30 pages. The final version, I think, was 100, 110.
Sure.
But I think it's actually funny. This is one of the few bills that the House is telling their members, "Oh, we came out of conference with 90% of what we wanted," and then our side saying the same thing. But in theory, that's because everything that the Senate had done was basically in the House bill, except it was worded different. And so
words matter.
Yes, it does. So we concentrated on ghost guns. So ghost guns are guns that are made that are not manufactured through an authorized dealer or manufacturer, I should say. So you have 3D
serial number.
You have the 3D printed guns, no serial number on them. As you're saying, you also have the guns that someone can call around to all these different manufacturers online, order pieces, put them together. No serialization. So it's the gun it's basically a ghost gun, not known. So those are banned. We also banned the Glock accessories and trigger switches that would turn a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon.
Okay.
We require live fire.
Yes, that's a great requirement. Yeah.
So
live fire for training.
For training.
For people
so
getting their license.
if you're going to get an LTC, not only do you have to take a class over the laws, but you also will be required to take a live fire.
Sure. It's not just a written test sitting in a class.
You have to sit there, you have to shoot the gun, you have to know what it's. So it's 18 months, it authorizes the state police 18 months to develop the regulations, the training. Now, we did, so this is an example of what's we both had it in there. So the House had it, live fire training, and I'm forgetting the initial date, but it didn't have the 18 months. They just had it starting at a certain date.
Got it.
We had in our bill, and this was an amendment I had filed, we had in our bill the live fire, but we had a commission first before the actual start because we had concerns of, okay, do we have enough rangers?
Sure.
Do we have enough instructors?
Sure.
What's the cost going to be? So this is where when everyone's saying, oh, yeah, the house is right, that 90% of the stuff that they have is in theirs, but we're also right in that a lot of things we had, and we just finely tuned them. We also established prohibited areas. So now in every city and town, with the passage of this bill, state buildings and municipal buildings you are prohibited from having being in possession of a firearm.
Okay.
But language that came out of the Senate, which was adopted in the conference, allows for a local option for the city or town to
Opt out of that.
waive
Yep.
that
Yep.
requirement.
Yep. And why was that?
Well, 'cause
you
you
and I
have-
talked about this offline. But
So, I mean, you have some communities, and I'm going to say Worcester County, Central Mass, and further west, where, hunting and gun ownership is something that a majority of the people do.
Yep.
And so they're not going to have the anti or the opposition to someone
Yeah.
having a firearm.
even just-
Well, you get into Needham or Brookline
Right,
or more
right.
these urban areas,
Right.
they're, where there's been more gun violence, they're going to look and they don't want people having firearms.
Well, even the practical thing, I don't know if I'm living out in, like, what is it, Washington County or something, whatever, right? And I have a firearm on me and I'm licensed to carry, and I realize I got to go update my fishing license, right? And I walk into a building and I've got that on me, right? Like, that might be normal practice, right? In that community. So giving communities the option to opt out of that, I think, is a smart move. I mean, I think that, you try to do one size fits all, but
Right. And you really
you can't. You can't. So I appreciate the flexibility that you guys recognize there. That's-
The other thing we did with this is we defined what a storage container could be, and this is dealing more with a car.
oh, okay.
So
okay.
so you can leave an unlocked firearm in the trunk of your car. It defines in the
Okay.
law
Okay.
what is considered a legal storage container.
Okay, okay.
So this goes into the fact
Okay.
what I thought you were getting at too.
Yep.
Is okay if I'm out somewhere, I'm an
Okay.
illegal gun owner.
Yep.
And now I'm in a community where
Sure. Yeah.
90% of people carry guns, but
Right.
I can't take it in there now. Okay, now where do I store the gun?
Fair point. Yeah. Yeah.
So now we
yeah.
have that. So
Yeah,
we have
it's a
that
cascading effect
right,
of
so
when we
there's the
make-
ripple effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Good.
So,
good.
So we did that.
Okay. All right.
There were some other things we did as far as an emerging technology committee to look at technology and firearms. Trying to think what other aspects of the bill. Prohibited workplaces, the assault-style firearms ban, ghost guns, firearm safety course. The inspections. So one thing that was shown that was that the state was deficient. Law enforcement, if there's a gun dealer
Okay.
in communities, local law enforcement was empowered to do the inspections to make sure everything they're in compliance.
Yep.
We found that there was a big gap in the enforcement that was supposed to be being done.
Okay.
So the House version came out where they were empowering the state police to do it.
Okay.
The Senate version is we came back with we leave it up to the local municipality
Yep.
unless they don't think they have the resources to do it.
Okay.
And then they can
can
turn it over to
trigger.
the state
Okay,
police.
okay.
So we try to didn't want to take the authority away from the local
Yep.
police. Look, the local police have the relationship on the street.
Sure,
They
sure.
know everyone. They're the ones going in. They probably
Yeah.
know the owner. So let's.
But if they
continue with
can't do that, then
but
it
they
gives
don't have
them-
the resources.
Okay.
So
Great. Okay.
we did that.
Okay. And I know in the final minutes we have here, we had talked previously about the Act to Prevent Abuse and Exploitation. It was a bipartisan bill to help. I just want to make sure that this is actually passed. This is where I'm going with this question. But for people who
The revenge porn.
yeah, revenge porn, right?
Yes,
So
yeah.
that did pass.
That did pass. It
Okay.
got signed.
Okay.
So basically, that establishes the revenge. We now have a revenge porn statute in Massachusetts. So if someone takes some photographs of you and
Right. Not my headshot.
not your
Something
headshot,
else.
yes. So now there is
Again, God help them, but that's okay. Huh?
So if someone does, and it's important to note that it's without permission.
Without permission,
Or
right?
consent.
Right.
So we did that, so that's been passed. Another two important aspects of that bill that they took from other legislation were two bills that I actually had passed. I had one dealing with coercive control, adding that to the definition of domestic violence,
Okay.
and abusive litigation. So coercive control is using psychological fear,
Sure,
all
sure.
these other tactics.
Yep.
And this is where it fit into the revenge porn is is, okay, so we're getting a divorce.
Yep.
Or we're in a very tumultuous relationship.
Sure.
And during our relationship, we may have made some films or whatever.
Sure.
That this person
Sorry,
can't
help but giggle.
that they can't use that against you.
Right. In any
way to
Yep.
control your going forward with the
Yeah.
divorce or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
So that was passed on this. So that's a new addition to the definition of domestic violence.
Sure.
And we also did the abusive litigation. We added a segment of that where they use the court system. So we're going through a divorce.
Yep.
And you keep filing frivolous complaints or
Yep.
frivolous charges because
Yep.
you know it's caused all the pain and anguish it's causing you
okay.
and financial distress.
Okay.
So we actually
That's part of it as well.
that's part of it
Interesting.
as
Okay.
well.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a big bill to get passed. And,
Wow.
the fact that they added those other two components, and these were the first year. Normally it takes anywhere from 4 to 6 years
Yeah.
for a bill to get passed.
Yeah. This went pretty quickly.
Those two bills. The coercive control and the abusive litigation, this was the first time they were filed. So
Yeah.
to have them included in this was big. And the revenge porn was filed last session.
Yeah.
Both branches, this was actually funny, so both branches passed it, but there was a slight difference, and they couldn't work out the slight difference.
Yep. So I had to come.
So we had to start all over again.
Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
A lot of work done. So you're almost out of formal session.
Yeah, again, we have 5 or 6 bills that they put out of Ways and Means yesterday.
Yep.
So we'll address those this week. We've got conference committees coming up, and we basically been put on standby for a session every day.
Okay.
So we're hoping to see more bills roll out.
Have the suit and tie ready.
Yes, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully you find some time to enjoy yourself and find some downtime.
August 1st comes, it's going to be, there'll be some downtime.
Good.
So-
Good. Well deserved. Thank you for all your work, and we'll see you.
Oh, just quickly?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please.
In the budget,
Yeah.
we did get a local earmark for the town of Westboro.
Yep.
For $57,000. This was in the Senate version.
Yep.
$57,000 for the Westboro Fire Department to purchase updated safety gear and equipment. And I believe Representative Donahue and Kane might have gotten something in.
I believe
Also,
so. I also
which I don't have.
I also saw in here significant funding. It was part of. I apologize for missing it. As part of the economic development bill, I saw that there is a $100,000 for Westboro Public Schools Borough Program to
Yes.
purchase a wheelchair-accessible vehicle for the borough program. So that's
Yes.
also significant.
And
so.
in the housing bond bill, again, this is bond bill, so we got $1 million for the town of Westboro.
Yep.
Now, that's for bonding authorization. That means if the governor signs, the bond bill goes to the governor's office, even if she signs it, we then still have to get the administration to agree to release the money.
Right.
So,
Right.
because what the borrowing bond bill does, it authorizes the administration to borrow money
Right.
for these specific projects.
Right.
But
They still have to go.
But if you don't get it, the authorization in the legislation,
Yep.
it can't be considered.
Got it.
So we got $1 million for as a potential bond authorization
Yep.
for the town of Westboro also.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy some downtime before we see each other again. That'll either be August or September. We'll figure out our schedules. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm sure we'll have a lot for you in August too.
Yeah, excellent. All right, excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. I want to thank again Senator Moore and our town manager for being my guest today. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and see you on the next show.